You ever see someone laugh at a war hero and think they know everything about strength? That's how it started for us. Karen looked at my wife's cane and grinned like she was in on a joke too cruel for decent people to make. And for a second, it almost felt like just another quiet day in the suburbs. Neatly trimmed lawns, fresh sidewalks, the kind of place where everyone pretends nothing ever happens. Except this time, she picked the wrong woman, and everything went sideways in a way no one could have predicted. Let me back up. 6 months after moving into Pine Brook Estates, a picture-perfect neighborhood where dogs don't bark past 10, and yards look like regulation cuts, my wife Jasmine, 15 years in the Army, 2 tours, shrapnel still lodged in her hip, was finally settling in. She trains federal agents now, the kind who protect judges and senators, and if you ask, or sometimes even if you don't, she'll show you the x-rays. Her cane's not a prop. It's military-issue black carbon fiber, insignia near the handle, something she needs when winter makes old wounds flare up like live wires. She never wanted pity, just peace. But there's always a Karen, right? Ours wore pastel cardigans like armor and acted like her HOA clipboard gave her authority straight from Congress. First time she saw Jasmine at the mailbox, her face scrunched, like she'd swallowed vinegar, and a few days later, while pruning her roses, she called out to me all casual, "I'm surprised you let her walk around with that thing so openly. I thought she meant the mailbox key." "What thing?" I asked. She jutted her chin at the cane. "It's a little dramatic, don't you think? People might get the wrong idea." I nearly lost it, but held my tongue and said through clenched teeth, "She's a war hero. That cane is earned." Karen just smiled like I'd proved her point. "Exactly. She used to be strong. Maybe it's time to move on." I should have walked away. Jasmine did. Said people show you who they are, then you choose whether they're worth your energy. But I couldn't let it go. Then came the twist. One afternoon, I come home with groceries, and Jasmine's sitting on the curb, pale, silent, her cane missing. She doesn't even look at me, just stares at the ground and says quietly, "She took it." At first I didn't understand, but Jasmine explained. Karen said the cane was a weapon, made the neighbors nervous, then laughed and told her to hop home if she wanted it back. My hands started shaking, that deep, chest-borne kind of shaking, and the next thing I know, I'm pounding on Karen's door. She opens it holding the cane like it's a dead branch. "Looking for this?" she says, smirking. "You stole my wife's medical equipment," I said, barely holding it together. "It's a stick," she shrugs. "She doesn't need it. She wants attention, file charges if you want, but the HOA won't back nonsense like that." "The HOA doesn't even exist," I snapped. "It exists in spirit," she said. "So does accountability." That's when I realized we were living next to a dictator with a clipboard. Jasmine filed the police report herself. She has connections. Not just barbecue friends, but people in federal offices, people who know how to make things happen. That night, she posted her story. Not a rant, just the truth about what the cane meant, what it cost her to use it, and how it felt to be mocked for surviving. It blew up. Veterans groups picked it up, then disability advocates, and even some federal agencies. Within 2 days, local news came knocking. By the weekend, Nightline was calling. And that's when the neighbors started talking. Turns out Karen had a hobby of bullying anyone who didn't fit her mold, leaving notes for a single mom saying her wheelchair ramp was an eyesore, pressuring an elderly couple to remove their porch rail, harassing people over non-standard walking aids. Jasmine's story cracked it wide open. The city got involved. County compliance started digging. Karen had been distributing fake HOA notices with Pine Brook branding. That's impersonation of authority. She got slapped with $15,000 in fines for that alone, and another $5,000 for medical harassment. Frankly, it should have been more, but the public shaming was priceless. News vans parked outside. Protest signs popped up. Real veterans stood silently at her fence, saluting each morning. Karen tried to play the victim, but no one was buying it. Within a month, she moved out without a word. Jasmine, still training agents, still teaching people how to tell the difference between real danger and ignorant fear. And now she gives guest lectures on ableism, on survival, on strength, on not shrinking just because the world expects you to. We mounted her cane above our front door with a plaque beneath it that says, "They thought it made her weak." And when people visit, some of them finally get it. Here's the thing. When does normal become dangerous? And who gets to decide which strength counts? And which one gets laughed at? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. Where's the line between pride and prejudice, power and pettiness, and who's got the guts to carry both with a little grace? Let's talk about it. You'd think after Karen left things would settle down, right? But in Pine Brook, drama doesn't ride off with the moving van. It lingers in glances across the yard, in mailbox whispers, in all the things polite people pretend they're too polite to say. And honestly, I was just waiting for the next shoe to drop, because when you shake a neighborhood like this, fallout is inevitable. The first week after Karen moved out, Jasmine started finding notes, handwritten, some shaky, some sharp, slipped under our door, tucked in the mailbox, even left on her windshield at the grocery store. But here's the twist. Not one of them was hateful. Instead, they were apologies, confessions, stories from neighbors we barely knew. Mrs. Alvarez down the block with the Too Perfect Garden wrote, "My late husband needed a walker, and I hid it behind the door every time Karen came by. I wish I'd stood up sooner." Mr. Connor, who fought in Korea and hadn't walked his street in years, said, "Thank you for reminding me that real courage isn't about hiding." People started showing their scars, little by little, once they saw Jasmine wasn't ashamed of hers. She started inviting folks over. Coffee on the porch, nothing formal, just open doors and quiet conversations. And soon enough, we had a small circle of people trading stories in the living room. It felt healing, not fixed, but real. But nothing stays simple forever. About a month later, Pine Brook's actual HOA, not Karen's imaginary one, decided to throw a unity and community event. Big banners, food trucks, speeches, the whole 9 yards. They asked Jasmine to speak. At first, she wasn't sure. "Do I really want to stand up and relive all this?" she asked me one night. "Or am I just becoming some symbol they can feel good about?" But Jasmine doesn't duck challenges. Never has. So she agreed. The day of the event, the lawn was packed. Neighbors, reporters, even the mayor suddenly eager to be seen shaking hands with a local hero. Jasmine stepped up to the mic, cane in hand, and for a moment, you could hear a pin drop. "I used to think strength meant going it alone," she began, voice steady but carrying that quiet ache underneath. "But surviving is only half the battle. The rest is about letting people see you, scars and all, and daring them to see something other than weakness." Then she paused, gave that classic Jasmine smirk, and added, "And if they can't? Well, that's their problem." It hit people different. Sure, there was applause, but there was also silence. The good kind. The kind that means people finally understand. And which one gets laughed at? Drop your thoughts in the comments because I'm genuinely curious. Where's the line between pride and prejudice, power and pettiness, and who's got the guts to carry both with a little grace? You'd think, after Karen left, things would settle down, right? But in Pine Brook, drama doesn't leave with the moving van. It lingers in sideways glances, quiet whispers, and the things people pretend they're too polite to say out loud. I waited for the next shoe to drop because when you shake a place like this, there's always fallout. First week after she left, Jasmine started getting notes. Handwritten, shaky, sometimes sharp, left under our door, in the mailbox, on her windshield. But not one was hateful. They were apologies, confessions, stories. Mrs. Alvarez with the Flawless Garden wrote, "My late husband needed a walker, and I used to hide it when Karen came around. I wish I'd spoken up sooner." Mr. Connor, a Korean war vet who hadn't walked outside in years, just said, "Thank you for reminding me that courage isn't about hiding." Little by little, people started showing their own scars once they saw Jasmine wasn't ashamed of hers. She started inviting neighbors for porch coffee, no speeches, no agenda, just open doors. Soon, a small circle was forming, swapping stories in our living room. It wasn't fixed, but it was real. Then the actual HOA, the real one, not Karen's power trip version, decided to throw a unity and community event, full spread. Food trucks, speeches. They asked Jasmine to speak. She wasn't sure. "Am I just becoming a symbol people use to feel better?" she asked one night. But Jasmine doesn't back down. So she spoke. On that lawn, in front of reporters, neighbors, even the mayor, she stood with her cane and said, "I used to think strength meant going it alone. But surviving is only half the battle. The rest is letting people see you, scars and all, and daring them to see something other than weakness." Then, with that trademark Jasmine smirk, "And if they can't? That's their problem." You could feel the air change. Not just applause, something deeper. Afterward, people lined up, not just to thank her, but to tell their own stories. The dad from 2 streets over whose daughter was born with cerebral palsy, the nurse who lost her leg to cancer, even the mail carrier who'd been dealing with MS for years in silence. Suddenly, Pinebrook wasn't just pristine lawns and tidy porches. It was a patchwork of resilience, stories hiding in plain sight. Then ABC Nightline came back, not for Karen, but for the silence Jasmine shattered. They filmed in our living room, her cane visible in the sunlight, and they talked to Mrs. Alvarez, Mr. Connor, the nurse, real people with real stories. The segment aired, and this time the online comments weren't angry. They were grateful. "Me too," some wrote. "I get it now." Or simply, "Thank you." But there's always a mark, right? A man at the event cornered Jasmine and said, "I get it. You went through some stuff. But does it have to be everyone's problem?" Jasmine looked him dead in the eye and said, "Moving on is easy when you were never the one stepped on." That shut him up, but it stayed with me. There's always someone who thinks keeping the peace matters more than naming the damage. And then came the twist we didn't see coming. Jasmine got invited to consult on a state policy review for accessibility and disability rights because of everything that happened here. She flew to the Capitol, spoke to legislators, shared not just Karen's story, but the truth about all the quiet courage that lives in every street. She came home exhausted but proud because she turned one moment of cruelty into something bigger than all of us. That cane's still mounted above our door, plaque shining, but now it means something to a whole lot more people than just us. So let me ask you, what kind of community do you want to live in? One where people hide their pain and call it normal? Or one where scars are just another kind of story, nothing to be ashamed of? Who decides which struggles matter? Who gets to say, move on? Drop your thoughts below. This isn't just about Jasmine or Karen or me. It's about all of us and the kind of world we're willing to build. So, what's your take? Where's the line between keeping the peace and standing up for the truth?